Montenegro, a small and beautiful Balkan state, is in trouble. The country is deep in debt, over 100% of its GDP. Experts will tell you for a less developed economy, 40% of GDP is the limit. 1/4 of that debt, nearly $1 billion is owed to China, a debt that Montenegro is struggling to repay. How did it get into this mess? And why did China get involved? Is it really a debt trap? I'm Sharon, and this is Straight Talk. In 2014, Montenegro took out an $800 million loan with a Chinese bank to build a section of a highway. Little did they know it would become a highway to nowhere. It had been a dream of the Montenegrin government to have a new modern highway running from its coast to the border of Serbia. They felt it could boost the economy in the less developed north and bolster trade with Serbia. A beautiful vision, but there was a problem. The numbers didn't add up. 2 feasibility studies by a French firm and then later an American company concluded that there would not be enough traffic to justify the investment. How big is the gap in terms of traffic? It would take 22,000 to 25,000 vehicles a day to justify the proposed scale. Yet guess what the daily traffic is on the busiest stretch? Less than 6,000 vehicles. In other words, they will need 4 times as many travelers to make it work. So the gap is huge. Just as the dream was going to remain a dream, China appeared, and things took an unfortunate turn. The Chinese bank, the Export-Import Bank of China, paid professors of economics at the University of Montenegro to carry out a new feasibility study. Lo and behold, they found the highway economically viable. You probably wouldn't be surprised to hear that the government rejected calls to release the detailed research to the parliament before a vote there. A deal with China was signed in 2014, and the painful journey began. The original plan turned out to be flawed. Why am I not surprised? It left out a turnpike, adding to the mix of the problems with the unfavorable currency fluctuations. The cost of the project kept rising. The loan swelled from $800 million to nearly $1 billion. Many also believed the loan was padded with extra cash for corrupt officials. The construction work is carried out by a Chinese company as per agreement, and they are years behind schedule. The revised completion is by the end of this year, but repayments of the loan will start in July, so right around the corner. I'm not sure if you remember me saying that the huge Chinese debt only covered a section of the highway. How big is this section? About 1/3 of the highway. The remaining will cost at least another $1 billion, a loan that the country is under no condition to take out at the moment. Well, even when the entire highway is completed, there won't be sufficient vehicles traveling and paying tolls. In other words, the project does not have a chance to pay its way, and the government has to find money elsewhere. The government has indeed been raising taxes and cutting benefits in preparation for the repayments. The country suffered well before the actual repayments kick in, yet the pandemic has crushed tourism, the backbone of the local economy, and further weakened its ability to repay. What if the government defaults on the loan? China will move in and gain access to its land and assets as collateral. So, Montenegro is trapped. A European think tank described Montenegro as a textbook example of debt trap diplomacy. That is, when one country saddles another with unmanageable debt to increase its leverage. Why would China do this to Montenegro? Well, it could be that Montenegro offers a key access into Europe from the Adriatic. It could also be that the country is a front-runner for EU membership, so a close relationship with its government could prove useful in the future. China has done this to many other countries based on their interests, under its now notorious program, the Belt Road Initiative. And what is this initiative exactly? It is a grand plan to secure land and maritime trade routes from Asia to Europe and Africa through building large infrastructure projects in countries located on those routes. The plan involves 60-plus countries, which together account for 1/3 of global GDP, 60% of world's population, and 40% of the world's oil output. The initiative was announced in 2013, and wait for this, was written into the Chinese Communist Party constitution in 2017. What do you think this move implies? To me, a sure sign that politics will triumph over economics. All Chinese companies will be under pressure to make investment decisions that support the CCP's political strategy. Under this scheme, Beijing targets poor countries or struggling democracy where corruption is common and infrastructure is lacking. Chinese banks provide fast cash with little due diligence, something Western lenders will not do, and sends state-owned companies to build mega infrastructure projects that the host countries often don't need, basically getting these countries trapped deep in debt. Then the CCP moves in and gets control over the infrastructure or land of the country, creating a national security and sometimes sovereign crisis. We are seeing this happening right before our eyes. Nothing illustrates China's debt trap diplomacy more vividly than what happened in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka borrowed over $1 billion from China's State Bank to develop a strategic port, the Hambantota port. One of the conditions set by the loan agreement is that the development be done by China Harbor, a Chinese state-owned company. Now, Beijing does not use an open bidding process typically seen in large infrastructure projects. So although they're lending billions out, Chinese companies and thousands of Chinese workers are being paid ultimately by the host countries. Remember, when CCP says it is a win-win deal, it doesn't mean both parties win. It means they win twice. Going back to the port, after the work was completed in 2012, the port drew only 34 ships. This continued for years. With little incoming revenue, the country struggled with the repayments. By the way, the loan wasn't cheap, with an interest rate of 6.3%. The Sri Lankan government finally handed over the port and 15,000 acres of land around it to China for 99 years. The implication is not only commercial but also military. Just a few hundred miles away lay the shores of India, a rival of China's. Besides the port, Sri Lanka borrowed another $7 billion from Beijing to build highways that would see no car traveling and an international airport that would only have one flight take off and land every day. President Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was responsible for signing those deals, was booted out of office in 2015. You may be wondering by now, where does China get all this money to splash around? A short answer is, China is dipping into its huge foreign exchange reserve, over $3 trillion of it, that it is not supposed to use for this purpose. It may be putting its financial stability at risk by doing that. If you would like to know more about this, please leave a comment below and I will be happy to make a separate video about it. Now, quality is another issue that has dogged those mega infrastructure projects that China engages in. Thousands of miles away in South America, Ecuador felt the pain. Ecuador hired Sino-Hydro Corp, again a state-owned Chinese construction company, to build a hydroelectric power plant. Ecuador borrowed $1.7 billion from China for this. Within 2 years of operation, over 7,600 cracks were found in the structure. Inspectors traced the cracks to the use of substandard building materials and inferior welds, a problem all too familiar to people living in China. Over the years, China lent Ecuador $19 billion to help with the mounting repayments. Ecuador has agreed to commit 80% of its crude oil to China at a discount through 2024. Crude oil is this country's principal source of export dollars. But there is one piece of good news for Ecuador, and it may offer a glimmer of hope to other trapped nations. In January this year, the United States came to Ecuador's rescue. It will refinance Ecuador's loans with China. As part of the deal, Ecuador will kick Chinese companies out of its telecommunication infrastructure and join the Clean Network. For those who don't know, the Clean Network was launched by the State Department to eliminate Huawei and other Chinese telecom companies from 5G networks worldwide to ensure national security. Better yet, the United States has agreed to support Ecuador's future development. It looks like Washington has finally recognized what Beijing was trying to do. And just days ago, Australia canceled the deals on China's Belt Road Initiative. What about the European countries? Will they come together and say no to Beijing to keep this predatory government in check? Well, this is it for today. If there's anything else you would like me to talk about, please do leave a comment below. Thank you for watching and take care until next time.